Hello and welcome to this very special episode called Empowering the Ecosystem, presented by Bank of Baroda in partnership with ET Now. It's a special series where I meet experts and thought leaders from different sectors and talk to them and get their insights on the way ahead for that particular sector. Today we're talking about a very exciting sector, that is fintech. Now, there's a lot of developments that have been happening in this sector, and I'm joined by a panel of 4 experts. Allow me to introduce them to you. First up, we have Akhil Handa. He's the head fintech, partnerships, mobile banking, and digital lending at Bank of Baroda. We have Alok Mittal, co-founder and CEO of Indify Technologies. We have Rishi Gupta, MD and CEO of Fino Payments Bank, and Nitin Kamath, founder and CEO of Zerodha.com. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining me here today. First up, I want to come to you, Akhil. Now, the fintech space, I know you've been integrally involved in the fintech space for a long, long time now. How have you seen things develop, especially after the lockdown? What has kind of helped boost things in the sector?
I think COVID has brought in a sense of urgency in the industry overall, in the incumbents. So, we were anyways on a path of digitalization, but COVID has brought in this painful sense of a reality check that we need to digitize and we need to accelerate our digitization. So overall, I think there have been 2 sets of impacts. One, because of the lockdown and the physical constraints of moving around, the customers have demanded a lot more from us digitally. They want to engage with us digitally. And the second is internally, in terms of our internal processes, in terms of our customer faces, we have had to accelerate digitization by manifold. Now, if I can cite a few numbers, so for example, if we talk about our mobile banking, which is the customer-facing app, that that the customers like to engage with banks with, we have seen almost a 2 times jump in the rate of activation of mobile banking application. There's almost a 25% higher daily active usage on mobile bank now, and which is also translated into a commensurate increase in digital transactions. Of course, there has been a dip in overall economic activity, which means that the avenues where customers are spending their money on has also been constrained. But I would say all of this translates into accelerating digitization by almost 2 to 3 years.
Rishi, I want to come to you now on the technology part. So, generally, people would say that, Fino Payments Bank is involved in financial inclusion, in dealing with business correspondence. Yes, that is an important part of your business. But how are you using technology to reach out to the masses, to get them into the banking space? And how has this accelerated after COVID-19?
When we look at internally in Fino, COVID always looks us as an opportunity. In fact, we have coined this creating opportunities in virus infected days. That is what COVID means to Fino, and that's what we talk internally, is that this is a great opportunity for us to do many things which we could have never dreamt about doing. It something to what Akhil said, that it is accelerated and unexpected gains are coming. So both culturally, in terms of as a culture, we are becoming more digitally advanced as a company. From a people point of view, people, even call centers are now started to work from offline, from homes. And so there is a big opportunity in changing the entire way you look at business. So when we look at our customer segment, which is spread across the country, we are looking at the next 500 million people who are joining the banking or the ecosystem of financial services. So we were able to build up this entire ecosystem through a phygital model. Phygital is physical and digital put together, where some kind of assistance is required. So through our ecosystem of merchants, we have about 250,000 merchants across the country. We cover about 90% of the districts. We are in about 650 districts in the country. So the phygital approach helps us to bring the customer closer. So there is a digital in which you can do the business in 0 meters. So basically mobile in your hand means you can do business standing where you are. So from a 10-kilometer radius where people used to go and do banking, we brought them to 100 meters. So within 100 meters of your workplace, you will probably find a Fino point, or there will be some other merchant point which can enable banking transactions for you. And this would not have been possible without the technology change which we have seen in the last 10 years, especially the ecosystem around JAM, Jandan, Aadhaar, mobility, which came into being. I would say amongst all of them, the Aadhaar ecosystem has actually played a very big part. Another big change which is now coming up is in terms of the iris and the facial recognition, which is now going to become the next big driver in a contactless world in which you don't need to move, physically touch people, and through a contactless mode, you can actually do transactions. So I would say there has been a lot of improvements on technology, especially around the last mile delivery, which has happened through the ecosystem which the government and the regulators have created in the last 10 years. And we are the beneficiaries of that ecosystem which the government and the regulator created.
Nitin, I'm coming to you now from, again, on the technology perspective, because you're India's largest stock brokerage firm, and the role of technology has been phenomenal, and you've been playing it really well. I mean, you've just been awarded the ET Startup of the Year award as well. Just wanted to get your insights on how you're seeing your sector develop, grow owing to technology.
Okay, so firstly, this whole lockdown, I think we've probably been one of the biggest beneficiaries of this. Online broking, maybe online education are probably 1 and 2 in terms of who have benefited out of this. We had taken 9.5 years to get to 2 million customers. We got the 3rd million customer in like 5 months, during the lockdown. I think what has changed is, there were a lot of these trendsetters, who always constantly thought about saving, investing, but never probably had the bandwidth to do it. But this whole, I think, work from home gave people time to actually sit and think about the finances. And what has helped onboard 1 million customers in 5 months is Aadhaar. If there's been help, we could have onboarded customers if onboarding was physical, right? So today, customers use Aadhaar for KYC, for signature, and SEBI has been very proactive in terms of moving towards like a digital way of onboarding.
Alok, coming to you I want to know your thoughts on the lending space. How are you seeing technology changing things there when you're talking to businesses, you're talking to people out there about how they are lending out money ahead?
I do think that one of the changes that I have observed over the last 4 or 5 months is pre-COVID, most of us were very deliberate about which parts of the business really did we want to focus on for amplifying the technology leverage, right? With COVID, all of us have found ourselves in a situation where everything in the business needs to be automated, right? So there can't be a physical leg in any part of the business. And to that extent, just how organizations have reacted to COVID in regards to technology adoption is very, very interesting. Right, and for a lending business, you must remember that a lot of the Aadhaar infrastructure, for example, is the onboarding part of lending. Right, a lot of underwriting was happening in person. Right, how do you start to automate that? A lot of collections was happening in person. How do you start to put more and more technology within that? Right, you could ask each of those questions, and there is an application of technology throughout the value chain, which has become more and more important. But I think the other key difference that I have seen, especially startups, engage in, is questioning their own core, right? Till February, the definition of fintech, especially in the lending and banking domains, was to apply more technology to what a bank does, right? And be more agile, be able to get that differential. I think the technology changes have also led to a more careful examination of the business thesis itself. And I believe because of that, many of us will come out stronger from the crisis than what we looked like in February or January.
How will fintech help us reach to every Indian in every corner to get them to be a part of the banking space so that they can get the benefits from the system as well?
So the Bharat issue is not with regard to technology, I would say. technology is already there. Whatever people are 40% of my customers in rural India are on WhatsApp. 70-80% of them are on Facebook. And we are actually running campaigns around Facebook and WhatsApp. So it's not about technology. Communication has become quite cheap. So from a Bharat point of view, I think Bharat is the central requirement. 70% of Indians live in Bharat. I think the focus of fintech industry was largely for cities and for the top 100 million people. That is now moving towards Bharat. And I'm sure the technology adoption will be higher. The challenge which is there in Bharat is that it's not about technology and digital. It is about cash. The people in rural India, the people in lower income deal in cash. They earn in cash, they spend in cash. The places where they spend is also in cash. So digitizing cash is the biggest issue.
Exactly, coming to your point there, Rishi, because I think the cash is, of course, it's cold hard cash. It's in my hand. I'm comfortable. I'm trusting it. When you move to digital, I'm not holding my money anywhere. I'm holding a phone, or I'm in front of a computer. Alok, I want to get you in on this point, because with your large bank of experience and being such an important part of the industry, talking to so many people, how are you seeing this trust issue being handled better and better?
There has to be a counterbalancing factor for trust, right? So, payments there and adoption has been growing steadily. And what that indicates is that customers are willing to trust digital payments, right? However, what we've seen over the last 4 or 5 months is the compelling use case for doing mobile payments has appeared, which is I don't have change. As simple as that, right? When you went to someone's shop and you paid, you always had change in the galla, right? Now there is this guy coming to deliver you at home in any case. It doesn't carry change, right? And that has the counterbalancing COVID factor to compensate for trust, right? And hence we've seen another spike of digital payments adoption, right? So I think message one, I think there is an opportunity to use some of these pain points to actually drive more electronic payments. The second is a word of caution. I don't think we as a country have yet seen the kind of payment frauds that are prevalent everywhere. While we have built some of the better known electronic payment systems, I do not think that they are immune to frauds as far as payments are concerned. And not because the technology systems are faulty, just because user behavior induces fault in them.
In as much as, we are a financial institution and, we do take the hit, but we're also very mindful of our social obligation. And the social obligation is that the country is learning how to deal with digital transactions, right? And, there are, we on an everyday basis, we see instances of fraudsters trying to stay 2 steps ahead. And hence it is very important that, there is this layer of comfort that is provided right from the regulator. That look, it's fine, deal with digital payments with confidence, and should something go wrong, right, the onus lies on the financial institution, right? So hence that gives the customers that added comfort.
What do you see are maybe the top 2 challenges and the top 2 opportunities for the way ahead?
I don't see there are challenges. Obviously, what we would like is that if more and more regulatory framework is created, which is beneficial for the ecosystem, is better for us. Like we as Payments Bank on the regulation side, we have restrictions to do limited activity. We can't do lending. We can't do other activities. If some of those things can be taken care of, that would be better, but nothing with regard to COVID in particular. Opportunities, yes, it's a big opportunity. I would break this into internally and externally. Internally, I think digitization, automation, process re-engineering, your reorganizations in the company, things which you could not even dream of pre-COVID, you can do now. The employee productivity has actually gone up during work from home. The commitment from employees have actually gone up. So internally, I think this is a big opportunity to relook at your entire org structure, opportunity to look at the way you do business, opportunity to look at the automation which you can bring. On the external side, I think this is an opportunity where the customers are trying to experiment. They're ready to experiment. They're ready to go with you. So as Akhil explained very eloquently in terms of the trust which is required as a banker, I think if we are able to maintain that trust with our customers, we can try and do many more new products and new areas where we can get in, provided the trust element is maintained. This is an opportunity to try something new and go deeper into the geography. Yeah. I would say Bharat should be the forefront for people in the future, and we should definitely look at doing more services for them. And they will pay for it. That is one myth people have, that poor people require poor services, poor products, and they don't pay. I don't believe in that. They will pay for the services provided you give them good service. In fact, you give them CSR. That is what we call convenience, simplicity, and respect. If you give them CSR,
fantastic,
they will give you all the money.
Nitin, coming to you, the way ahead, same question, some challenges, some opportunities that you see.
I think there are some of the challenges for sure I think employment is a challenge, right? Because, the efficiency of this, within our business has improved so much, right? So we've gone from catering to 2 million customer to catering to 3 million customer without adding a single person on the team. Our team size has remained the same. Right, and which is the bigger problem for this country, which is how does employment get created? I think personally, while the productivity is up, I think I'm burning out, and I'm sure a bunch of my colleagues I know are burning out. It's very tough to turn off in this work from home kind of a situation, right. And you don't want people to burn out in a short term. There's a long term game, right? As in, so we're still trying to grapple around that. I think just the way you lead a team, I think the leadership skills required in an environment like this is very different to what we've been taught. So I'm still trying to figure. We are doing the same, which is do a lot of these web meetings and stuff like that. But I don't know if that's the right thing to do. So we're just trying to figure that out. But that apart, I think this has kind of given us, I think, for businesses working on savings, investments, etc. I think this is probably the opportunity of a lifetime, because firstly, interest rates in the banks are low. So people are looking at other ways to invest their savings, right? So I think it's that way it's the opportunity is quite big for, be it, equity or, be it gold or be it even fixed income instruments. So we're bullish about it, but not as optimistic as Rishi is about.
It's always good to hear both sides of the coins, or again, just everybody's perspectives, everybody's views are always different. So it's always good to get to hear from more and more people. Alok, your thoughts?
Indian market is so, poorly penetrated that I think in terms of numbers of startups or amount of penetration, I have no doubts that those numbers will continue to look strong. Right. I think the real opportunity in my mind has been in the change in customer behavior that we have seen over the last 4 or 5 months, where a lot of assumptions that we had held close to our hearts with regards to customers not adopting digital, having a slower pace of adoption, having these trust issues. What that allows you to do is to just reimagine what you can do with your customer base. How can you serve them? Delivery models. I think all of that is up for reconsideration. I think there'll be fintech companies and other startups that will fill this vacuum and innovate to give customers better self-serve, products and services. So I'm quite excited about where the startups and fintech in particular is trending over the next few quarters to next few years. I do think that one of the challenges for India has been on the regulatory architecture. And there are several of those fault lines that have gotten exposed through the COVID crisis. For example, despite the best efforts, the ability for the government or the regulator to transmit monetary policy and liquidity down the chain has been called into severe question. And I think there is again scope for innovation there to make sure that our regulatory rails continue to work efficiently and they can support the pace of innovation that technology can offer.
Fantastic. Akhil, last word from you.
I'll just dovetail into the word that Alok just mentioned, and that is behavior. And I think all said and done, behavior is the fundamental change that will come out of this crisis. And that will have huge ramifications for everybody, for banks, for fintechs, for infrastructure providers, for the regulator, the government, etc. And marketing 101 is do not fight customer behavior, because it just takes an incredible amount of investment and spend to get them to change or adopt to anything which has a step change. And COVID, I think, has provided that impetus to provide that kind of a behavioral change, and all for the good, because ultimately digital is good, right? It drives down the cost. It is instantaneous. It is very efficient. It is measurable. There are a range of benefits that come with being digital. And I think as we become more digital, customers become more digital, the institutions have to lock in that direction.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Akhil, Alok, Rishi and Nitin, for coming on board here today and for sharing your thoughts on this. It was a very interesting and a thought-provoking discussion. And thank you so much, viewers, for tuning in. And I hope you've been able to get some great insights and you're taking back home some of the thoughts that have been shared by these experts on fintech and how we are all working together to empower the ecosystem. This is a very special show called Empowering the Ecosystem, presented by Bank of Baroda in partnership with ET Now. Thank you so much for watching.